Greetings and welcome back to Wolf Kage Los Angeles. Today, we're diving into something that at first glance might seem harmless, peaceful, even cute, artistic. A photo of a beach, but not just any photo. This was one posted by none other than former FBI Director James Comey. In the sand, a carefully arranged sequence of seashells, 4 simple digits. 8, 6, 4, 7, or 86, 47. Now, to the average person, this could just be another quirky beach pic. But if you're tuned in, if you've been paying attention to the times that we live in, then you already know nothing is ever just random. There are no coincidences, especially when it comes from someone with ties to the highest levels of government and intelligence. So the real question is, what does 8647 mean, or 8647, and why now? Let's break it down. When it comes to government cryptic messaging, history tells us symbols are everything. During World War II, intelligence agencies use flower arrangements. They use chessboards, even laundry lines to pass coded messages. Fast forward to the digital age, Twitter, Instagram, even emojis have become the new cipher keys. So, when James Comey, who once led the FBI, posts a number made of seashells, people are right to raise their eyebrows. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Online sleuths, like me, and code breakers have jumped on this. Some link 8647 to a page in the U.S. criminal code. Others suggest it corresponds to a Q drop or even a reference to biblical passages. Coincidence? Or is this a symbolic breadcrumb, part of a larger narrative, something meant for a very specific audience? You decide. But let's put this in context. James Comey isn't just any other former official. No. This is a man who's been at the center of political storms, Clinton emails, the Russia hoax investigation, that unforgettable 2017 firing by President Trump. Since then, he's kept a relatively low profile. So when a figure like that posts a cryptic beach photo, I don't think it's just random content. It's a message. Whether that message is for the public or for someone else entirely is the real mystery. And let's not forget, the intelligence community thrives on psychological operations. They thrive on misdirection, symbolism, control. Could this photo be a part of something like that? Or are we just seeing patterns where there are none? Now let's talk numbers. Did you know in numerology that 8647 breaks down into highly specific meanings? Some interpretations say 8 represents power, 6 ties to sacrifice, 4, which is what I am, a life path 4, structure, and 7, enlightenment or secrecy. Add that to the fact that seashells across many ancient cultures symbolize protection, symbolize mystery, and hidden truths. This isn't just about a walk on the beach. It's about how messages can hide in plain sight. And here's the real kicker. What if this is a test, a trial balloon to see who's paying attention, who's decoding, who's awake? Because in this age of information warfare, staying asleep is not an option.
This other story that we've been watching, former FBI Director James Comey, he's now under investigation over a social media post. What more can you tell us about that one?
Yeah, that's right, Craig. In a now deleted Instagram post, Comey, who you remember was fired by Trump in 2017 and later became a prominent Trump critic, posted a picture of shells on the beach forming the numbers 8647. 86 can be slang for remove, 47, a common reference to Trump, the 47th president. Some of the president's supporters took it to mean that Comey was calling for President Trump's assassination. Comey, after taking the post down, said he didn't understand what the numbers meant and that he doesn't doesn't support violence against anyone. But meanwhile, the Secret Service says they take posts like this seriously and they're investigating. Craig?
All right. Garrett Hick traveling with the president there in Abu Dhabi. Garrett, thank you.
All right, so let's dig into the first major twist. At first glance, James Comey's post looks innocent, even calming. A peaceful beach photo, seashells carefully arranged to form the numbers 8647 or 8647. Harmless, right? It looks cute, looks playful, just a man enjoying the sand. But not so fast, because the internet, especially Twitter, caught on fast, including me, and they're calling this for what it may really be, a thinly veiled threat. And not just to anyone, but of course to one man in particular, Donald Trump. And you may ask yourself, well, why? Why Donald Trump? Let's do the math. In American slang, 86 means get rid of, a term used in restaurants, the military, and beyond. It's been a part of pop culture for decades. And 47, that's the number of Donald Trump's presidency right now. Put them together, 86, 47, and what do you get? A message that sounds a lot like get rid of 47. Now think about it. Comey was fired by Trump in 2017. It was one of the most controversial firings in modern political history. So would it really be a stretch to believe that Comey holds a grudge, or that he'd want to send a coded message to the public, or even worse, to political allies? Now, of course, when pressed, Comey brushed it off, said it was just a little beach fun. But to me, that's insulting. That's insulting to the intelligence of the American people, because let's be honest, does a former FBI director really make public posts without knowing exactly what they'll signal? Especially someone who once oversaw counterintelligence operations? Comey knows exactly what he's doing. And if he thinks that we're too naive to see through it, that says a lot more about him than it does about us. Which brings us to the most important part. The Secret Service has now been looped in, and rightfully so. Because whether it is a direct threat or a symbolic jib-jab or just dangerous political theater, it's extremely reckless. Leaders in government, especially those tied to law enforcement or intelligence, have a duty to be level-headed. They need to be logical and responsible. But this is emotional sabotage, disguised as social media fluff. And emotional people in powerful places, that's not just a red flag. That's a national security risk. Because emotional leaders, in particular, do not think ahead. They don't strategize. They react. They're impulsive, irrational, and dangerous. And this post, no matter how harmless it may look to the average person, might just be a case study in what happens when that emotional instability bubbles to the surface. Okay. As they should. Okay, so now here's where we need to kind of widen the lens, because this isn't just about Comey. There's a lot of people in high places who want Donald Trump gone, and not just out of office, but out of the picture completely. Why? Because Trump represents disruption. Plain and simple. He's not just challenging political opponents. He's threatening the very structure that keeps the power class rich, protected, and above accountability. When you shake the pillars of power, the elite don't just get nervous, they get vicious. Here's the real issue. Trump is pulling money and control away from the top and pushing it back to the working class. That's redistribution in real time. And for the billionaires, bankers, and bureaucrats who've made their fortunes off the backs of the American people, for them, that's a nightmare. Add to that, he's stopping wars. Wars that, for decades, have been massive cash cows for defense contractors, for lobbyists, and politicians. We're talking trillions in taxpayer money moved through foreign wars and regime changes often justified with shaky intelligence and a media spin. Trump cut through all of that in 100 days. And that alone makes him a walking target. Then you've got tariffs, those economic pressure values he used to disrupt insider deals with countries like China and Mexico, deals that were making the elite richer while gutting American manufacturing and choking out the middle class. Trump flipped the board, and the global players, they didn't like that one bit. So when someone like James Comey sends out a cryptic message, whether it's symbolic or not, it echoes louder in that context, because it's not just a rogue post. It's a symptom of a panicked elite. They all see the writing on the wall. The old game is crumbling. It's falling apart. Now, do I think James Comey will be arrested? Probably not. People in that tier rarely face consequences, sadly. That's just the unfortunate truth. But what does matter here is the exposure. This incident shines a spotlight on the insanity at the top. It shows you just how far these people are willing to go, not to protect the country, but to protect their money, their influence, and their golden goose. Because for them, losing power means losing everything. And they'll burn the whole house down before they let that happen.
Well, new this morning, President Trump is accusing former FBI Director James Comey, who he had fired in his first administration, of threatening him. Comey posted a photo of seashells spelling out the numbers 8647, prompting swift backlash. Alabama GOP Senator Tommy Tuberville, for example, called the post beyond despicable and said James Comey must face consequences. Comey has since deleted the photo and posted a statement, quote, I posted earlier a picture of some shells I saw today on a beach walk, which I assumed were a political message. I didn't realize some folks associate those numbers with violence. It never occurred to me, but I oppose violence of any kind, so I took the post down.
President Trump says this about Comey's explanation. Listen to this.
Exactly what that meant. A child knows what that meant. If you're the FBI director and you don't know what that meant assassination. And it says it loud and clear. Now, he wasn't very competent, but he was competent enough to know what that meant. And he did it for a reason, and he was hit so hard because people like me, and they like what's happening with our country. Our country's become respected again, and all this. And he's calling for the assassination of the president.
Obviously, he apologized and said he did.
Well, he apologized because he was hit.
But
look, he's a very bad.
What do you want to see happen? What do you want to see happen?
I don't want to take a position on it because that's going to be up to Pam and all of the great people. But I will say this: I think it's a terrible thing.
The U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says her department and the U.S. Secret Service are investigating an alleged threat made against Trump by Comey.
All right, let's bring in who we just saw there, John Miller, a chief CNN law enforcement and analyst. You were also, John, the deputy commissioner of intelligence and counterterrorism for the NYPD. So is this a case you would have investigated, John?
You know, this is the kind of case that might have come in. We had a threat management unit that was very busy dealing with threats in New York City. And we could take those cases either to state prosecutors or federal prosecutors. But the bar is very high for what is a threat versus what is a statement versus what is a message. And when you look at this as, you know, the 8647, is that a threat? 86 comes from the land of bartenders when they said you can't drink here anymore because you're a bad customer. Where it turned into killing, that may be some social media phenomenon, but it doesn't fit the legal standard
Only
of
on
a threat
CNN.
that we would have taken on or that a federal prosecutor would have accepted.
John, given your law enforcement and intelligence experience, and it's very in-depth, what is the law regarding what constitutes a threat versus a political statement?
All right, so you would approach this from the federal statute because they've referred it to the Attorney General, the Secret Service, the FBI, the federal statute about making a threat against a government official through interstate commerce, meaning that they use the internet and social media. Then the bar is set at, is the threat a serious threat? Is it a credible threat? Did the person making the threat mean it and have the capability to carry it out? Is it the kind of threat that struck fear into the heart of the person being threatened? None of this seems to approach this bar. If I had brought this into the Southern District of New York as a threat, they would have said, we appreciate you stopping by, but we don't see a prosecution here. So what you see is a lot of hyperbole. But as my colleague Jim Murphy pointed out on this morning's news call, there are still stickers saying 86 Biden, meaning 8646, that are being sold on eBay. There's no call
Not by
to
the
say
FBI
that those
director.
are threats. There's no investigation
To the
into
world.
eBay for selling them. They're available across the internet on other platforms. They're on sale at a reduced rate because he's not president anymore. None of the distributors are being investigated. So the question here is how much of this is government weaponization theater versus a real legal problem?
And just to follow up with that, whether or not he should have posted that is a different story. In terms of the legal aspect of this, the fact that he deleted it and then said, look, I didn't realize that meant violence. I don't condone violence. So as a result, I took this down. How would that typically factor in an investigation?
That's a great question, because when these cases rolled into us, either my people or the FBI and detectives from the Joint Terrorist Task Force would go out and do the interview. This is how you close out the case. What did you mean when you said it? Did you mean it when you said it? Typically, we had people who would threaten to kill politicians, and they would say, I was drunk, I was online, I don't know why I did it, I certainly have no intention of doing it. And the case would die right there.
That's so funny that they're trying to act like this wasn't a dog whistle. You know what? Let's be honest. Trump usually lets this kind of thing slide. He did it with Hillary Clinton. He's done it with others who've taken shots at him over the years. But this time, rightfully so, he's putting his foot down. It's about time, because this cannot keep happening. We are watching political lawfare unfold in real time, weaponizing the justice system, manipulating public sentiment, and now pushing messages that may even incite violence. This is not just dirty politics. This is extremely dangerous. These people are serious, dead serious, and they've got to be stopped. They've got to be stopped legally, peacefully, and constitutionally before they tear apart what's left of our so-called democracy. You see, we can't have a free country when politicians are more loyal to their own power than the people they claim to serve. You can't call it democracy when those who fight for the everyday Americans are the ones being silenced, targeted, or worse. Of course, this story is still developing, and I'll be watching it closely. I don't think it ends here. In fact, I believe this is just the beginning. I think that one strange act may unravel and a whole new layer of corruption, a whole new layer of secrets and elite panic may ensue. So stay tuned, because it is just the beginning. I am Wolf Kage, and this was Wolf Kage Los Angeles. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. And check out some of the other videos I have waiting for you. Until the next time, stay sharp, stay aware, and peace.